Norwich Confidential with your hosts, Dr. Ben Hong, Bonnie Hong, and Mr. Bob Farwell. And good evening. I'm your host for this evening. I'm Bonnie Hong. Ben is actually in the technical booth. Our young men that usually handle our technical operations are both out today, so Ben is actually substituting. So I wish you luck, sweetheart. We have the political primary season has actually started. Many people think that it's starting too early. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but understanding what our political process is very basic. Politics is local, and the two most important experts that I could think of to bring on and explain to us what the political process is, how it runs, how it works, how they, other than what day we vote, are our town committee chairmen for both the Democratic Town Committee and the Republican Town Committee. So I'd like to welcome to the show Larry Goldman, our Democratic Town Committee chairman. Welcome,
Thank you.
Larry.
Lovely to be
and
here.
Peter Nystrom, the Republican
nice to
Town
see you,
Committee
Larry.
chairman.
Good to see you.
See you too.
Let's start with something very basic. What are the town committees?
Town committees are officially elected representatives for the public to help in the nominations and the elections for the different offices for the town or city that they're in.
Both of the town committees elect the members of the town committee?
Yes.
Yeah, there's an actual vote that takes place every 2 years. Ours is in March.
Who votes for who gets on the town? I've never gone to a poll, and
It's open caucuses usually. So we post a notice about the caucus, and we have actually the way our party does it, we do a sign-up sheet. And if you are a current town committee member, you can re-sign up, or if you want to get on, you can sign up as a new person, and that happens with the Democrats, it happens in January. And what happens then is if there are too many applicants for that, because we break up our caucus by precinct, the representative precinct. So we have one for the 46th, one for the 47th, and one for the 139th. And we are represented by one out of every 100 Democratic registered voters at that point in time. We will have one member.
so how many total members are there?
We have, I think it's about 76 we're capable of having.
76
Yeah.
members are on the Norwich
Yes.
Democratic Town Committee.
Yep. And any registered Democratic voter
Is
apply.
eligible
Right.
to run for a position on the town committee.
Exactly.
Okay. Peter, what about the Republicans?
They're chosen at large throughout and across the city. Currently, right now, membership's probably about 48.
How does that
We
election-
can go higher. Again, we post a public notice that the date of the selection is taking place. And people who are registered Republicans can come again and seek membership if they're not on the town committee as well. We generally do not turn people away. We're small in numbers, smaller registration. So we basically encourage anyone who would like to be part of the system. We have a two-party system. That's what really has evolved over time, over the centuries that this country formed. And I know people have problems with the two-party system, and I understand that. But for the most part, I think it works.
So yours is also a caucus?
Yeah.
Similar?
Yep.
Okay.
Every 2 years.
Okay.
Yep.
So when yours takes place, you said in March?
In March.
Okay. So the Democrats will caucus in January for the town committee, and the Republicans will caucus in March for the town committee.
All right.
For
And-
example, our next one is next March, 2016.
Right,
Ours is next January.
right.
And after the fact, with us, and after we nominate and elect and caucus and vote on whoever's going to be there, after our first meeting following February, which is March for us, I and the rest of the executive committee run for re-election again
Okay.
with the new town committee
New
member.
town committee. So I just thought of something. If you're a registered Democrat or a registered Republican, and you don't necessarily want to serve on the town committee, are you able to vote for those that are serving on it? Like, can Democrats just show up at the town committee there and
That
look at?
that would be an open caucus.
Oh, that'd be an open caucus. We don't have that.
They-
We're closed, which is why we run for election.
Okay, so it's only those that are running
Right.
or current members that are
And the
able to
same-
vote.
And that follows suit with all the endorsements for any candidate running for office.
All right, let's talk about that. So let's
Okay.
say you have the candidates for city council first.
Mm-hmm.
What is that process like?
With us, what we do is we put out a call. We publish a call for anybody who's, obviously registered Democrat, who's looking to vote for office, run for office. And we get those names, and what we do is, our process is, we go through a vetting process where we have a political action committee which sets up a series of questions to make sure they're legitimate Democrats, if you will. And we also have a local platform for the Democratic Town Committee, and they have to agree with the platform to be able to run. And once that process is done, then we go through an endorsement meeting, and it was July this year, and we vote on different candidates, and if they're approved by a majority, then they're on the ballot.
Okay, Peter, is that similar with the
No.
Okay, how did the Republicans?
We don't have a litmus test. We welcome people who are seeking to run for office. Yes, as a registered Republican, but we don't set a standard for them to even to become interviewed.
So you don't have a platform that the
We-
Republicans in Norwich really want to push for?
Not before the candidates get together. I think that's the cart before the horse. And I know, having served as the mayor in 2009, 2013, I know there were Democrats who were offended by having to fill out the litmus test, as they refer to it, in order to be considered to run for office.
Because I think that, just my opinion, a platform, I was not aware that the Democrats did have a platform that was actually written, and that you kind of looked at people that would kind of be thinking along those lines, that could support that platform.
But that was a platform that was, we ran a platform committee, and was adopted by the whole entire
Town committee.
town committee.
Okay.
And to cover that issue he had mentioned, the only people who were upset about filling out a form, answering questions, were the incumbents,
Okay.
which
Why-
I didn't understand.
why
because
would
if
that
you-
be?
I don't know, because if you were running for office and you were in office, I would think that would be the opportunity for you to tell everybody what you had done.
Yeah.
But
But it seems to me that, I mean, is the platform published anywhere so other Democrats can see it? If
it's
we were
available to
interested-
anybody who wants to ask me. I mean, I
How
have.
about just the general public?
No, but I would think more Democrats would be interested in what the
Yeah.
city's platform, Democrat platform is.
And like I said-
I doubt whether Republicans would really care,
Yeah.
but,
Well, as I mentioned
Well, we
before,
would care.
anybody who wants to apply for membership of Democratic Town Committee, or anybody who wants to run for office, gets sent that platform,
okay,
and they either approve it or they don't.
okay. I think that's great, personally. I mean, I wouldn't care whether I was an incumbent or just running for the first time. I'd want to know that the people I'm running with have at least basically the same goals and objectives that I do. I would
Yeah,
I would
and-
feel comfortable with
And to
that.
be honest, the platform and is pretty innocuous. It's
Right. I mean, we're local.
it's all general.
We're not- right.
You know, we
This
we
is-
want a better Norwich. We want a better education. We want to bring in more business. I mean, you know,
It's that
that
general.
whole thing. yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I have
Yes.
it here.
Well, okay. Maybe I'd like to
If-
take a
if-
look after the show.
sure.
That would be good. So we have our candidates selected by our town committees, and then the campaigns begin. If you have, why do primaries occur?
If you end up with we'll stay with the city council.
Yep.
All right,
okay.
both of us have the opportunity to endorse 6 candidates. All right, if we fill up that slate, on both sides, then if somebody else who is either a Democrat or Republican decides they want to run, they have the ability to petition on. And if they gather enough signatures and they're approved by the registrars, authorized, then they can force a primary. And that's why we need a primary.
Okay. And mostly it's for a position of mayor. It wouldn't, have we had a primary just for a city council slot?
Have we? I think we,
Well, almost. We
It
had
was
7
close.
people seeking endorsement from the town committee this year, Republicans. So there was a vote within the town committee at that time. And we took the top 6. That person who was 7th had certainly enough votes to primary, chose not to. It can happen, but generally, Norwich, my biggest concern is getting people out to vote
Right.
at this point. 2 years ago, 23% of the voters turned out.
And that,
Almost 80% didn't bother to vote
Right.
either way,
Right.
for or against any of the candidates, including myself. And that's really, it hurts them, it hurts the process, because then they actually bring some credence to the concept that, well, my one vote doesn't mean anything. When you have everybody not voting, it means a lot.
right.
and I think that, just to kind of jump ahead just a little bit, one of the comments that you hear a lot right now is that the whole primary season just started too early. I think what most people don't understand is that this is the only time your vote really counts. If people are not involved in the whole primary process and they don't make a choice, the choice is made for them. It's not so bad on the local level because we generally know the people that are running. We have some idea of what's going to happen once they're elected. But on the national level, when the choice is basically made, like to me, I see Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton being the chosen candidates by the parties at this point.
I know.
That would then kind of maybe be what we have to choose from in November of 2016.
Well, let me jump on that, because
Okay.
I don't wholeheartedly agree with you. In most cases, it's usually pretty well set, although it's between the parties, it's gone back and forth nationally from year to year, depending upon the situation and who's running. But the process has become very long, and because of that, we actually find out a lot more about the clients, or the candidates, excuse me. And maybe that's a good thing, but it gets very tiring. And it just adds to the cost of running a campaign, which is a whole other thing.
Right.
We won't be having primaries this fall.
No, not at all.
In the past, we've had primaries. You asked about city council. I remember there was a time when Mike Behar, this is some years back,
Right.
we had the precinct system. And he had the primary for his right to run as a Republican candidate in that particular precinct. But that's really one of the only few times that I can think of that happening. The interesting thing was, back then, unaffiliated voters could vote in that Republican primary. And back then, 4 years in the state's history, unaffiliated voters could vote in all Republican primaries at any level.
That's the state Republican committee that makes those decisions. Just like if they decided
It
to,
was more than that.
It's
It
a
was a
state
Supreme
legislature,
Court
yeah.
decision that upheld the right of association as guaranteed by the Connecticut Constitution as well as the federal Constitution, that any party, if the Democrats want to open up their primaries to unaffiliated voters, they
can
have
do
the
it.
right
They
to
have
do
the-
it.
Exactly.
They didn't want to do that. In fact,
Right.
they took the Republican State Central Committee to court to stop us from doing that.
Yeah.
They lost. But that right of association is guaranteed at the federal and state level.
Right. But what I'm saying is that it is the decision of the party within the state of
Right.
Connecticut to make the choice, whether it is open to
Or closed.
affiliated or closed to their registered voters.
You don't need to pass a law. Some people
No,
have said we should pass a law at the state level to do that. You don't have
No.
to do
No.
that at all.
The
Any
political-
party could open it right now.
It's up to the
Right.
political
And
party.
I wish they were open to
But they're
unaffiliated
not.
voters.
Neither one of the parties leave
Nope.
them open.
No, they should be, though.
I agree
I'm
with
not,
that.
I'm not justifying that, and I'm certainly would be in favor of affiliation, open elections or not primaries, whatever. But it's not that hard to go to the registrar of voters as an unaffiliated voter, because
Right.
you've got up to the last month to do it, or
Actually, the last 4 days.
40
Yes.
days. And you can go in and change your affiliation.
true.
If there's somebody you like, you can vote for them, and then right after the election, you can switch back to unaffiliated.
Right,
That's true.
yeah.
It's not painful.
And the only difference in that 4-day period is if you are changing, like if a Democrat really wanted to vote in the Republican primary,
They could do that, but they have to do it 3 months before.
right, the
Yeah.
deadline for this year would be January 20th. So if you had you wanted
This
to...
coming, yeah.
This January 20th, in order to allow someone to transfer party affiliation, to be able to vote in the primary in April, to change your party affiliation, it would have to be done by January 20th. But they said 3 months. The problem is that there's a specific number of days. In the law,
Right.
it actually says 90 days.
90
right.
days.
And it is for 90 days, it makes it like January 20th, not January 24th or 26th, whatever it is. So I think that it's kind of important, because then if someone thought, well, I still have a couple days left, sometimes knowing exactly what the rules are becomes important. But so that, yes, you can even change parties to vote in the other, in a primary. Most people, I don't think, bother to do that unless they have a real passion for
Exactly.
a particular candidate. They want to vote in their own party primary. But so, do you see any benefit at all of having the primary season start this early?
I think the change was to hope to engage the voters more, and I think the result has been just the opposite. The turnout at polls during election days, other than presidential, it just doesn't seem to matter to people to want to vote. And that's a sad thing, because having the right to vote, people die for still in countries around this world, and many people in Norwich and everywhere else still take it for granted or just dismiss it as not important, and it should mean everything to them.
I remember we had German young professionals as part of Rotary staying with us for about a month. And it happened to be in November. There was one young man who was a political science major and was very interested in our democracy. We had just had an election, and 8% of the Norwich population came out to vote. 8%. So you're talking about 23%. We were up,
Yeah.
Peter. I mean,
Well.
that was up. And it was, I was even shocked by the low number. I mean, I've never
Yeah.
seen anything that low before.
The only thing I can say about that there are options that could change that a little bit. And if you look at Oregon or Washington with their mailing ballots out,
Right,
they have like 85% return.
right. And they also have automatic registration.
Right.
As soon as somebody
Is
is 18,
Right.
or they're going to be 18 by the election,
They're
it-
automatically enrolled.
registered, yes. And I think that, I don't know anyone at the state that has suggested that.
They tried last year, but it was so run over by the gubernatorial campaigns that because there was a referendum on the ballot.
Was there last year?
Yeah. And what they were doing, they were giving the legislature permission to look at when the voting was going to be available. It didn't say how they were going to change it. They were
Right.
just giving them the option to look at them, because it's in our Constitution, so you have to
Right.
change the Constitution
Right.
to let the legislation do that. But, I mean, I know, who was the group that was behind that? I don't know,
Not recalling.
one of the groups, one of the other associations.
Could have been Common Cause or
Something like that.
Concord.
And
They're
they
generally the
try to
groups that
go out
push
there and
that.
do it, and I was kind of like pushing it locally, just to remind everybody that there was a referendum out there, but, hardly anybody voted on it.
I'm surprised, because I didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
So, but, and again, I think that unless we
Well,
really
that
have...
might greatly. We have time, but you know, we've got 18 ballot questions
That's what I was just
for
going to bring
referendum
up.
right now, and here's a good segue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. One of the things that both Peter and Larry were discussing before we went on the air was the fact that in November, we will have 18 referendum questions on our ballot. Can you gentlemen explain what some of them are?
It's pretty much
To
all
amend the
about this.
charter.
Yeah, it's all the same subject. It's all the what they push forward for the charter change for the city of Norwich by the Charter Review Commission and approved by the city council, and they broke it up into the 18 different items that they're applying for change. So there's going to have to be a lot of information out there, hopefully. So you'll know exactly which item you're agreeing to and which item you're not, because I don't think it's an all or nothing.
Right. Not if they separated them.
Right.
No, they're all
So-
separate 18 individual
So
issues.
if you don't like one, you can certainly vote against it. If you like the rest, that's fine.
And I think we already kind of know then what our show is going to be about when we start. By October, we're going to start having to get some information
I think
on
you'll
these
need a
out
few shows for that
to
one.
start talking about them.
It's,
Yes.
another headline on this one is that the ballot, it's already been established. Your regular candidates will be on side one. Your referendums will start on side one and will go on side two of the ballot. So you gotta have to flip it over and keep on going.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we may as well bring a cup of coffee when we go to vote this time.
It's gotta take a while.
Wow. What else about the upcoming election in November do you think is important that most people should know about? We don't have any primary before then. Our
No,
candidates are selected.
Yes.
The
Well,
election
I think it
season will
could be
start.
a statement from the voting public as to the direction the city is heading right now.
Well, it should be.
We have, I mean, I hear from everybody, they're concerned about the cost of living, the 6% tax increase this year, the adjustment to the mill rate the year before, and, you know, it's under the guise of revaluation, and then they turn around and say, well, the state makes us do this every 4 years. Well, that's true, but every town has to do it every 4 years. The question is, are you really making a determination as to how the money's being spent, what level of spending is appropriate for a city of a grand list that has gone down?
Well, let's step back just for a minute, because that also brings up the other candidates that we didn't talk about that you do nominate. You do nominate the state candidates, right?
True.
True.
Yep.
Okay, so you have, do they ever become accountable back to you for the job that they're doing?
Well, to us directly?
To the town committees that nominate them, yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, in a sense, because we have them in on our meetings every once in a while to tell us what's going on, and if we have a problem with what's going on, we let them know.
Okay.
I mean, there's usually a lot of banter going on back and forth between our representatives and our state senator,
Yeah.
you know, both positive and negative, depending on what the situation is. So, yeah, we can let them know. And on certain votes that happen up at Hartford, if we're not happy, or if I'm not happy, I will let them know.
Within the town committee, this happens as well?
Within the town committee and directly.
I'm sure that personally, yes, because I have also, but within the town committee, you
Yeah.
have that same kind of relationship where they really know that you were unhappy about something as a town
And
committee?
as well as our local elected officials too,
Okay.
from the mayor on down. It's
Well,
something,
at the moment, none of the, quote, elected state members come and visit us. But
Well,
they're of a different party.
Yeah.
yeah,
So-
well, that would be
But
a
I
problem.
would tell them, well, that's not a problem, because I'd let them in the door.
Yeah.
They'd be more than welcome to come and give a report to us.
Have you invited them?
I have talked to them in the past, let them know the door's open. I mean, I served with a number of them. I
Right.
served with Kevin Ryan in the
Right.
past years. I've not served with Emmett. I haven't served with Kathy. I haven't served with Paul up north there in the 47th, but,
It would be interesting if you
excuse me,
did.
Doug, not Paul.
If you did
That's his brother.
extend a specific invitation to
I'm
see-
extending it right now.
Well, yeah, but this is...
Senator Austin, please come on in. You're welcome to come
Yeah.
address our town
Okay,
committee.
I meant something
I
a little
understand.
more.
Well, I'll do it formally. If you want it in writing, I'll do it in writing.
Well, I think it would be interesting.
I think she'd show.
I do too.
Kathy
She's-
works hard.
she's-
She's not afraid of issues. She faces things.
And she's responsive.
She does get back to you.
Yeah, she is responsive.
No one can dispute that,
Yeah.
not at all.
But then let's talk about the council. Because whether they're a Democrat or Republican on this city council right now,
Yep.
they are not responsive at all. I had a banker that is Rotarian that was also trying to get a hold of actually the mayor. And when he called, well, she would talk to him at 11:45 in 2 days. If he would call back at 11:45 in 2 days, he could make the appointment to speak to her on the phone. Personally, with me, I have sent emails to every single one asking just one simple question. I never got a single response by email, unless I chased them down. And then at that point, I could ask the question. Not one has responded to this day.
Well, I can relate to that. We had someone who was considering running for office for the first time. Unfortunately, her responsibilities in the town of Salem, she works for the superintendent of schools over there, precluded her ability to do that. She wanted to run for city council for the very fact that the mayor didn't respond to her calls, didn't respond to emails.
But it's
until
not
a
just the
month.
mayor. I don't want to
No,
make
it's
this a-
not. It's not.
I don't want to. This is not a Democrat or a Republican issue.
No, it's not.
This
It's
is-
being
yes.
responsible and getting back to people.
Correct.
Even if the answer is the answer they don't want to hear, you still need to get back to people.
Right. And just talk to them.
It's
Answer an
just
email.
basic courtesy, communication,
You know.
and it's easy.
Yeah.
It is.
I thought it was,
Me too.
but it doesn't seem to be for your candidates. Of the incumbents, how many are running for re-election?
2 on his ticket.
2 on my ticket,
There's only 2.
yeah.
We have
Wow.
one.
And you have 1.
Bill Nash.
So
Sophie's
out
not.
of all of these, there's what, 7 total, right? The mayor
Deb's
and-
not running. The mayor's race isn't open this year,
Mayor's
so
race
it's just
is
the
Oh,
not
so
council.
it's just the council.
It's
Just the council.
So half the council will change.
Absolutely, it's guaranteed.
So our
Yeah.
slate is running against itself because we can only sit 4.
Okay. So if we weren't happy with the incumbents, we do have other choices as Democrats, if they wanted to just vote for a Democrat. Or they might want to look at the Republican candidates this time.
Sure.
But the Republican candidates, your incumbent, none of them have been responsive either. So I think that we have a problem. Yes, we want to be involved and engaged, but we would like, if we're going to be engaged, we need engaging council people that are actually
Reachable.
yes,
Yeah.
that are, you know, so
And
how does the town committee?
There's another issue there that's underlying as well, and it's just in the process of how the council operates. And the one thing I would always like to see, and I've asked for years about this, even when I was on the council, why can't, when you bring something up for a vote, it's usually loaded for statute reason or legal reasons in legal verbiage.
Right.
And it's very hard to discern what exactly they're voting on, and in some cases they don't describe it at all. It seems to be a basic, normal running of business, even
Right.
if it isn't. But if it's normal running of business where you're just moving funds from one thing to the other, whatever, you're appropriate. People get upset because they think you're appropriating more money. They don't understand this is normal, you're just shifting money
Right.
around for this reason or that reason. My point was, why can't you put out a public list with simple English language that says, this is the reason we're doing this,
Right.
and this is why?
I'd like to go a little different direction. I'd like to see the council discuss the issues they're voting on during the meetings. I think this particular council of late clearly is too quiet. They don't tell people why they're voting the way they do. It almost seems to me that all the decisions are made before the meeting begins. And the public would like to know why they're voting the way they are. So why
Have
is
some
it so
discussion.
hard for someone who's sitting on a council? I mean, it's like every meeting has to be rushed. Tune in to see it, 8:15, it's already over. There's no dialogue with this council currently. Now, that's going to change because there are 3 seats that are wide open for new people. And I hope the people that get elected realize that it's important that people understand why they make the decisions they do and share that. And during the meetings, the best time to do it, because you've got the press covering it, You have an opportunity to see it on
But that
cable.
may be exactly why they don't want,
Well, that's,
you know,
then they shouldn't be
I mean,
sitting in that chair.
Exactly, I
That's-
agree.
And that's the one thing I tried to instill in all the candidates that we had running last time, that you need to be more vocal, and your reasoning for your vote should be told every time. This is your one time, before you cast a
Right.
vote. This
Right.
is a one time that you have to say whether you're for it, why you're for it, whether you're against it, why you're against it. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings. You're
Right.
not going to upset anybody, but you're at least let the public know your reasoning. And you don't have to argue with anybody. Maybe if you're the first one out of the boat that says, I'm not voting it because I don't like this,
Right,
you may change one of your council members' votes.
right.
I mean,
But I do think, you know, the idea that it's discussed beforehand, because both parties have their caucus before they,
No.
you do not?
no.
Okay.
Well, I don't know about them. I can only
I think
speak
that-
for Bill and Sophie. They didn't.
From what I heard, every once in a while, the Democrats caucus on a certain situation.
So they just,
But that's,
in some other way, decide how they're going to vote and not discuss it when they go in, but
well,
I can understand.
what I don't appreciate is if somebody says that, well, there were already 4 votes, so it's got to pass, so why,
Exactly,
but that's not the point.
right.
That's still not the point. Even if it's got to pass, you should state what you feel is
Right.
right or wrong.
Right. Because then at least we know
Right.
how
The public
somebody-
should know how you're feeling
you're
and why
voting.
you're voting.
exactly,
That's your responsibility to tell the public.
exactly.
Yeah. I agree.
The show is live. If I'm missing a question that you would like to ask of either the Democratic or Republican town chairman, please feel free to give us a quick call. And I know both of them would love to take your question rather than mine, so. I have one issue, and I know we're going beyond local at this point, but do you really think there is a disagreement among most Democrats and Republicans at the local level about the concern for the amount of influence and money that is controlling our national government? Do you really think there is a difference in how individuals living here in Norwich really feel?
I'll speak for myself. I'm concerned at the local level. 2 years ago, we had all this PAC money come flooding into the city of Norwich. And immediately after the election, we saw issues come to the surface being promoted by people on the council. And I think it was directly related to the money.
Okay, so
Totally.
you see a problem with money
Well, for the first time.
locally, but
Yeah.
and then so that would extend to your feeling about it nationally as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
We know who owns Congress. It's not the people. It should be the people.
it should be the people. But
Absolutely.
So even local Republicans would see that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that
Yep.
obviously local Democrats see that.
I brought this issue to the Charter Commission. You can't stop PAC money coming into municipal races, but I asked them to take a look at issues like improved disclosure, FOI application, including the correspondence that followed the
Right.
receipt of the contributions after they went into the campaign coffers, an email trail, and
Well,
things of that nature. Now, they
this-
didn't get into that,
Right, but
I
this
brought
relates
that up.
back. This relates back to exactly what I had approached the council about. One of the hot topics on this show several months ago was the Mohegan Park Chelsea Gardens.
Botanical, yep.
And the fact that, you know, most people, I think they forgot that it passed 23 years ago. All of a sudden, they were chopping trees down in their backyard, and there was a very large outcry. And I thought it was the absolute perfect time for Norwich to actually embrace an anti-corruption act, and for the council as a whole to say, look, that happened 23 years ago. It was, all of those votes were open, nothing was secret. However, we want to assure the public that it would not happen with this council. So I actually wrote the resolution, and I would never have told anybody that I wrote that resolution. I wanted just one council member, just one, I didn't care who it was. Please take this resolution and introduce it if you would. And that was my question. Would you introduce this resolution?
The biggest problem we have in this city is that we don't seem to know how to do public relations. We don't seem to know how to inform the public. Now, this would not have been an issue had that committee, before they decided to take the trees down, it's been 23 years.
Right.
Put out a little informational booklet or
Right.
spread some news in the newspaper that say, hey, we're looking to do this, we have to make some movement to get some funds from somebody else. Whatever the reasoning was, I really haven't followed it that well, but put it out there.
That's a very good point.
Solve the question up front, just answer it, give them the information. If people are going to be unhappy, people are going to be upset, but they're not going to be accusing everybody of doing stuff behind everybody's
Or
back.
illegally, right.
Or illegally.
But that's a very good point, though, Larry.
Yeah.
If they had the forethought of actually saying, you know, people are probably going to get shook up with us cutting down these trees, maybe what we should do is make sure we have a major presentation, let the bulletin come up, let's do it, you know, have the bulletin maybe really begin to do some...
I remember when I was back in the council again, this was back in '06, I was back then hot on riding my bike with my family and been to the trails between Providence and Bristol and all over the state of Connecticut and enjoyed it, and I thought, oh my God, what doesn't Norwich have this? It'd be a great
Right.
spot or a great draw for sportsmen out there to come with their families. I said, we could tie it downtown, run it all the way up to Mohegan Park, and you would have thought I was asking them to tear down a church.
Really?
To put in a paved bike path in Mohegan Park. Like that was going to upset the whole.
Oh.
So, I mean, I understand people's sensitivity to how the park is, but.
And I think one of the things that many people don't understand is our park is growing. It's not that we're losing
Oh,
land.
no, I added acreage while I was mayor,
Right, and...
with
and
the assistance of a very generous family in the city.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we
grew the
continue
park.
to grow it.
Yep.
We,
You know.
actually, we've been doing that for a while now.
Yeah,
And
I mean, we've been very lucky to be able
and
to
they're doing
have-
that again now, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, there's another key
So-
lot that's going in.
So I think that most people don't even understand that it's not that we want to take away from what we've got. We don't. I mean, Norwich does continually add to it. We are, I think we're, particularly with our public utilities, well, the direction they were going in before the push for natural gas but...
You're welcome.
I am upset about that.
I know you are.
But I do think the other things that you're doing, the solar
Garden.
garden, yes, the solar mill, and even what we've done with the wind, the 2 wind turbines, the ones that were test turbines up in across from Kelly and
Senior Center.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the senior centers?
We're still analyzing all that.
Right.
Just so everybody knows, I'm also on the Norwich Public Utilities Commission, so
right.
that's how I know
And-
all this.
yeah.
But we're still analyzing all the data from the windmills to
Right.
see how effective they are up
But
on the hill
we're
there.
putting on another hydroelectric plant, from what John told me, that they're looking at doing that.
Well,
so-
we've been chasing that tail
For
for
a
about
while.
25 years.
Yes.
Scotland.
Yeah.
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 But if all of that, we may be able to increase our own electricity production from the 5% now to maybe 25%.
It's around 6 or 7% right now
It's higher.
with our hydros. When we start between the solar garden, and if we do get the Scotland and the other 2 or 3 dams, we'll probably up around 15 to 18%.
They'll be able
Of
to
renewable-
maximize the generation,
Right.
because they'll control the flow at the head of the source of power all the
Right.
way through the gates at each
And
level.
we'll also...
We were working on that before.
Yeah.
We'll also have the ability to really stock our rivers all the way up to Willimantic,
Yes.
because we'll have the fish ladders that we have work, but we can't get by Scotland because there doesn't work. But part of our plan to take over that particular hydro is to fix the dams and make sure it can go all the way
Any
up.
application had to have that component as part of it.
But that would be great, just
Yep.
for
Yep.
recreation and sports, and then
Mm-hmm.
the thought that we would be able to have renewable energy here. I mean, that is going, to me, that is the biggest thing, one of the biggest issues that we really do have to look at and maybe be just a little bit more aggressive about. But this is good. Okay, so we all agree that money is a problem, but it's not, and it's not just money. I know that.
Well, we have big services needs here, and
I meant
we
for
have
the
we
corruption.
have we have a poverty rate here that's very high.
I know,
We have an unemployment rate here that's extremely high.
right.
We're one of the highest in the states.
This region lags behind any gain or
And-
recovery of the state
What we need
and
is
country.
we need jobs here.
Yes.
That's what we need. We need jobs.
Do either one of you have solutions for that? Or do
I'm not running for
does your
office.
party-
Well-
or does your party?
Well, because now I am running for office, I'm also a candidate for council.
I gave you that one.
Thank you. You need to relieve the burden at the time when the mill rate is assessed. If taxes keep going the way they are in this city, you're not going to bring companies into this community. You're not going to keep the companies that are here. First rule of economic development, I always believed, was maintain and retain the companies that are providing jobs for your people right now. And we've seen companies chased out. We have. Due to PID policies over the last 5 or 6 years, particular Collins and Jewell. They left. They're in Basra. I worked very hard to keep them here in Norwich. They wanted to go on Shipping Street, which for some reason now this current council thinks Shipping Street is important. It was important back then because that was the company that wanted to relocate there from the industrial park. Well, that opportunity was lost, and those were choices by some of your people that were made. They're now no longer here, and that's a huge hit to the tax base. To lose a company of that caliber, the jobs as well, that's a bad thing to happen. You have to fight to keep the companies that are in your community, and it brings up
But
another issue.
How much do you give to keep the company here?
Well,
Let's-
We weren't giving anything.
wasn't
We were
giving
we were
anything.
working with them, trying to help. What we would have done, going back to that date, was be responsible for the municipal infrastructure that we are responsible for in any area of our town. Gas, water, sewer, electric, the things he's responsible for as a commissioner.
Right.
Those are the issues we were promoting back then, but politics came into play, and the opportunity was lost to demonstrate to that company that we were willing to ask the voters to support a question for referendum.
Didn't that go to referendum?
It never went to referendum. Everybody, that's one person in particular said they were supporting that issue, bailed on it that night, said she wouldn't support it, said it wasn't ready now. The week before, she had claimed, this is our current mayor, as an alderman, that she would support it going to referendum. In a meeting at NCDC, she said she'd support it. A week later, she changed her mind, or whatever happened, I'm not sure. Actually, I do know what happened, but I'm not going to get into that tonight because time is an issue. But you can't let companies like that leave your community and take those jobs with them. And that brings another issue that I want him to hear about. If we continue to look towards promoting the sale of services from NPU outside the city limits, one, you open the door for competition inside the city limits. Norwich has a franchise for the sale of some of the issues like electric and so forth. And where you can sell that, it's important to note, if you ask for the right to sell outside that franchise, you have to let the other companies come in and compete for your customers locally. So it's a two-edged sword.
That's right.
That's a dangerous street. And if you make it so lucrative for companies to exist and receive the wonderful benefits of NPU, and I'll always promote NPU because it's such a difference between sale and P, it's a world apart.
It is.
A world
they're
apart.
two-
If you make it so lucrative for those companies to get those services outside the city of Norwich, how do you get them in Norwich when our tax rates are so high? You can't.
Well, I always
shooting
thought of
yourself
it,
in the
right,
foot.
I always thought of it as the carrot that would pull people in because
It'll become
just
the carrot that helps them leave as well.
if they can get the same.
This is what happened with one company I just mentioned. They went from Norwich to Basra. The tax rate's less, but they still enjoy better services other than CL&P.
Yeah, well, they also got a
I understand.
$2 million
Yes.
package from Basra
I
that
know.
was
Yeah.
Well,
tough
yeah.
to fight.
Yeah.
We need one of those, gentlemen, to fight for Norwich properties.
Yeah.
But those are two-edged streets. You can walk on one side, walk on the other. sometimes they cause everything to exit.
Right. But to stay...
Hurts your grand list.
Instead of taking, the specific issues,
Mm-hmm.
what I really want the public to really understand is that being involved and being engaged in the political process now is critical. It's critical to their quality of life in this city.
Certainly is.
So that they have to be engaged enough to know when the election is and who is running, what they're standing for. Ask them questions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what kinds of questions to ask, obviously if you are a homeowner, one of the first questions you're going to ask is about your taxes.
Right.
And don't be afraid to ask.
Well, if you're looking to move to a town or a city in eastern Connecticut, and you have a young family, I'll guarantee you the first thing you're looking at is how good is the education
Right, the
system.
schools.
True.
And that's probably the second biggest problem we have in this city.
Right. And again, it's not for, it's the lack of funding. And you cannot support, like right now, our Board of Ed, 40%. It's only 40% of our tax dollar that goes to pay for our Board of Education. 60% are the
State.
grants that are being written and the state.
State, and there's
So-
some federal, but
And
mostly state.
yet, with all of that, with it only being 40%, it is a big chunk of our tax dollar. So, I think people have to understand that is only 40%
But it's like,
of the entire
we're
Board of
not
Ed
as bad
budget.
as any small town. I mean, your typical small town in Connecticut, their educational budget's probably 75 to 80%.
Yeah,
But that doesn't make it any easier for everybody here. It's all relative.
right.
Our biggest problem is transient students.
And the number
And I don't
of
mean people
languages-
coming in and out of town, I mean people moving from one area to the other.
Right,
And the only thing I wish, I'm not telling the Board of Ed what to do, but the only thing I wish they would do is if a student comes in a particular school, even if their parents or whoever are forced to move to another location, they should keep them in the same school for at least a year or two.
it would help the student.
It would help the student.
Right. And if there were a way to make that transportation easier, I'm sure most parents would understand that. Especially, we have very, very diverse community. I mean,
Yes, we do.
and that also adds to the expense of us educating these children. So
Language barriers is probably one of the
For the
most
pa-
critical
particularly-
issues that they have to
particularly
face
for the
every day.
parents, yeah.
Well,
You
for
have
the
50
parents, more so than
More
the
so,
kids. The
yeah.
kids will pick up
They-
English pretty quickly.
Yeah, every class I've ever been in.
But if
with
it's
the
not
number of-
reinforced in the home,
Well, that's an issue.
But-
yeah.
the other languages that are being spoken in the home, if they don't follow through in the home and also speak English, which is the language in the classroom, the child is at a disadvantage.
I think I don't think as much of a disadvantage, because what I've seen is that even when the parents don't speak English well, and they don't speak English in the home, the children, I've watched a number of my friends who are immigrants, and I've watched their children from the age of 5 up. The oldest one is now in high school, doing very well. Their English has always been perfect, but the mother never could communicate with me more than maybe what she did the first year she was with me.
If anything, it usually gets education in reverse,
In reverse.
where the kids
But-
start educating the parents.
Right, but the
True.
children are generally extremely bilingual and pick
Yeah.
up more languages. They
And
adapt to language so quickly.
The
that-
earlier you throw it at them,
Right. But if we could step back again,
Okay.
because I think that when we talk about money in politics and the corruption, yes, I agree, and it's not just money at the local level, it is corruption. Because I can, some people are aware of it.
it's
that-
influence. It's influence.
Well, it's more
Yeah.
than, Larry, it's actually more than that. When I was an elected official, I was blackmailed. And we're talking about Norwich, okay? We're not talking about a big town, we're talking about a small local town, and I was blackmailed. Now, as shocking as that might sound, and yes, it was a shock to me when it was happening to me, the fact that it can happen, and I may not ever be the only one, I just may be the only one who's publicly going to say it. We know that money influences. We also know that power influences. The two of you are very different from the town chairman that were around when I was running for office. Very different.
That's for sure.
Extremely different. There was a power control at that time. You also had bank control at that time, and this is in a very small local area.
It's a different environment now. Back then, there used to be fights to get on the town committees. People
Yes.
would
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember.
people
I
would
remember
struggle.
a time, even in our town committee, we had more people than we had seats,
Yeah.
and there was some very harsh feelings after those votes.
Yeah.
People that had been on the town committee were literally
But
bounced.
but part of the problem was that your town chairman at the time had such power and such control.
Because there was such a demand to be on.
Well, partly.
I don't
But
recall.
no, I think that was on. I do know.
I don't recall chairman on the town committee that I joined having that kind of control.
You're also much younger than me, Peter.
Yeah, but I've been doing this since 1979.
Uh-huh.
And my auspicious beginning started with answering a classified ad because Republicans needed new candidates because the three incumbents weren't running for office again. Dorsey, Carter, and our other
Right.
great friend.
But
But
what I'm saying is that we know that this is not just a national issue.
no.
However, at the national level, it really destroys democracy. At the local level, turning it around is not, it may take a couple of years, it may take a little while, but it is controllable at the local level. Something can be done. If we had real, something like the American Anti-Corruption Act that could be passed in Washington, which Congress will never do on its own, ever. It's like saying, you're not going to get the $1 million payback from Monsanto when you leave office and come and work for us as the consultant and then go back to, the Food and Drug Administration and be able to lobby for what we want. When the bills are actually written by corporations, they're not written by legislators anymore. They're actually being written today by the corporations.
By businesses, yeah.
We all know it. So what do you do about it? And the fact that you could have a resolution that could at least start in Norwich, and it is totally ignored by everyone that is, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to every single one of both of your candidates and ask why, especially the incumbents, why wouldn't you even consider doing something that protects the city of Norwich from corruption? You wouldn't even do it here.
Yeah.
Now, I won't put the two of you on the spot and give you a form for organizations to say that you endorse an anti-corruption law. I wouldn't think of putting you both on the spot publicly like this, but privately after the show, I'd be happy to give you
We've
a
already
sheet.
spoken about this, Bonnie, you
You've
and
got,
I.
yeah, but you
I
haven't
would-
signed anything.
I'll tell you what I would do.
I was asked to bring it to a town committee. I wasn't asked to sign it.
That's,
Okay.
that's what I was just going to
And
offer
I will
to
do that.
Okay.
I would more than be happy to push that around to our members and have them vote it up or down.
I would love that.
Sure.
I can't imagine, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, that you could say, oh no, I'm not for an anti-corruption. I can't even imagine that. If we are so far gone that everybody says, oh no, corruption's okay, we can handle that, or we don't need a law for it, that's like Congress saying, yeah, well, no, we don't need a law for corruption, it's all right, and then it blatantly do these things that just seem so criminal. We only have about 5 minutes left. I know the time's gone by and I've done more talking than I should have, but it's a challenge with the two of you. So,
Well, it's been a challenging year for us and everybody, because there seems to be a lot of flux and movement and who's running and who isn't. But the Democrats are running a good slate, and we have some. For those of you who are looking to have new people come on board, we have some great candidates. For those of you who are happy with the candidates we have, we're pleased with them running again. And we almost did have like your thing with our Board of Ed, we always had 8 people running for 6 seats, but it ended up not being a contest by a couple of people dropping out who were interested. So that's good. At least it doesn't cost the city money for a primary.
Right.
So, but no, we're excited. It should be a very good campaign this year, I think, from both sides, because for the first time, the Board of Ed is it's not going to be a given.
No, there's no given. We have 5 candidates for Board
Yeah.
of Ed. We have 5 for City Council. I'd like to mention them. Jerry Martin serves on the Harbor Commission. He helps promote the city in that light. He puts on fishing tournaments for youth in the city. In fact, he's done that at the state level, the Connecticut River, for a number of years. We have Stacy Gould, who's a newcomer. She's active at East Great Plains Volunteer Fire Department and their associations. She's active with Hadassah. If you don't realize that she's also active at Treats Pool. I'll give a plug for Ron, because that's been a family business in this area for many, many years. I'm running. Okay, that's one guy. We have Bill Nash, who's an incumbent. He's running as a retired policeman. He has served 3 terms, I believe, with the City Council. We have Joanne Filbert, who's running. Joanne attends every council meeting as it is right now. She's very outspoken. She asks tough questions. And so, we're excited about our ticket. He's excited about his, I'm excited about ours. And I really think it's going to come down to the cost of living in the city. Can people continue to stay here and pay the taxes that are being asked of them?
Well, it's
And
going
I'm
to come
hearing
down to getting the voters out. So,
absolutely.
And I think that's
people
one of
have
the
to
things,
vote.
right?
If they
That'll
don't
be the key.
vote,
Larry, do you want to talk about
Sure,
who
we
your
have-
We've
we have-
only got a few.
We have a returning candidate, former member of the City Council, Tucker Braddock, who's running again. A new candidate, we have 2 new candidates, Sam Browning, who's a lawyer, who's been in town for a long time with a very big family in the city. We have Alana Sherman, who works in Hartford and who is running. We're very excited about her. Our returning candidates are Pete DeSaulnier, who is the pro tem, and Mark Betancourt. And those are our endorsed candidates.
Very good. Well, let me just
well,
say,
I think
you
we
both
should-
have, for your incumbent
Okay.
candidates, just so that I can put this out.
Yep.
Let's see which one can get this resolution to the council first. But I
Okay.
think that the biggest factor in the election in November is obviously going to be to get the voters out to vote. We really need you to be engaged. It doesn't, with all of the problems Norwich has, I think it's critical that you really look at what your problems are. Talk to every candidate. They will be around. Trust me. This is going to be a good competitive race between both the Democrats and Republicans. They've both got good slates. So the candidates will be out in the neighborhoods talking. Maybe you might want to set up a coffee, invite a couple of them in. Find out, just have your neighbors come in, ask them questions,
I like that.
get involved. If you don't know how to register to vote, on September 23rd on the show, we're going to have both the Democrat and Republican register our voters here. So we will talk about the timelines, how you can register online. There's an app for it now,
The same-day registration.
and same-day registration for new voters. You'll be able to vote, register the day you go in to vote.
a request.
Pardon?
May I have a request, real quick? A new show item would be the Board of Ed candidates. We didn't get to talk about them tonight,
right.
and I know we're
You're
running
right.
out of
No, that-
time, and I
that would
feel
be very
remiss
important.
about
Exactly.
that.
Okay.
We have 5 great candidates running for Board of Ed, and I'd love to talk about them tonight, but
Okay.
I know we're running out
We
of time.
are. We're down to
But
like-
also, we have a race for treasurer this year, which hasn't happened in decades. The incumbent Brian Curtin is running, and Mike
Congratulations, Brian.
Gualtieri is running. He's a retired vice president of banking from Chelsea Groton Savings Bank, local guy,
Okay.
born and raised. So you've got a lot of choices today on the ballot.
But it won't affect you unless you register and are determined to vote in November. So as important as the primary season is going to be nationally, from now till November, you're going to be hearing a lot about our local candidates, and I really want to encourage everyone, no matter why you're registering, if it's to vote in the primary in April, you should absolutely register so you can vote in November, okay? Thank
good.
you both very much for joining me
Thank
this
you.
evening.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure
Always
to have
fun.
both of you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
And I will
See
have
you.
you both back on if you'll come.
Sure.
Sure.